All right, we're live. Welcome back to Getting Real. I am your host, Monick Halm, and today we are diving deep into one of my favorite topics, which is how real estate can empower women to build generational wealth. This is a conversation I know so many of you will resonate with because for too long, women have been underrepresented in the real estate investing space. But here's the thing, when we step into this space, we create financial security, freedom, lasting legacies. We tend to have better results than men when we do it our own way. So, my guest today is living proof of that. Melissa Nash didn't come from wealth. She didn't have a trust fund. She wasn't handed a blueprint for success. She was at a crossroads, stuck in a corporate job, missing time with her family, and knowing deep down she was meant for more. Instead of staying stuck, she took action. Fast forward just 6 years, and she's built a $5 million real estate portfolio, all while raising 4 kids. And here's what I love most, she's not just changing her own life, she's setting up her daughters for real financial independence, proving that wealth building isn't just for men in suits, it's for every person, especially women who are ready to take control. So today she is here to break down exactly how she did it, the biggest myths keeping women on the sidelines, and why just one rental property can be the key to changing your financial future. So if you've ever thought that real estate is out of reach, this episode is going to challenge everything you thought you knew. Now, I'm so excited for today, and I'm so excited to have Melissa Nash with us. So please welcome her. Welcome, Melissa.
Oh, thank you. That was such a beautiful intro. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you. And I'd love to hear your story. I mean, I definitely resonate with feeling stuck in corporate and feeling like you had golden handcuffs and not knowing what to do. But tell us how you got started.
Yeah. So my journey kind of is always been entrepreneurial. I've always been a part of or wanted to have my own business, and it's really scary. And some people think that like entrepreneurs are born with like this extra thick skin, or real estate investors are born with this extra thick skin and they don't get scared and they don't get frightened. And that is farthest from the truth. Like I get scared every time, even today, like when I'm putting in an offer on a property or making a tough decision, I'm scared still. And I want to like say that's okay and that's normal. And we need to feel a little bit scared. We need to feel something to make us take action. And so just grab that fear and just arm yourself with knowledge, first of all. And then sometimes we just got to go for it. And I think as women, particularly, I know, at least speaking for myself and a lot of the women that I know in my life, it always seems like, oh, that's the man's thing, that they can take those risks and they can take those challenges and they can do that. And so I would say I learned early on that I knew that I wanted to have my own business. And of course, when I was a child, it might have been a candy store, but I was always attempting to do something. And so my husband's grandma, so when we got married, I met her, and she had been a real estate agent in Los Angeles in the 60s, the 1960s and 70s, which is really a big deal anyways. And so she would sell a house and then she would take that commission and she would buy a rental property, which is crazy for that time. And she's passed now, and there's so many questions I wish I could have asked her because she didn't talk about it. I only heard the bad about it. Like my husband and his brothers were like, oh, when we were younger, we had to go clean out all these apartments and my grandma wouldn't pay us and, these crazy stories. And so he thought real estate was like bad and he hated it and never wanted to be a landlord. And so all I knew was that she was now retired when I met her, and she had all this money and she was going on cruises and she had this amazing retirement. And so all I knew is she had these rental properties. And I didn't know anything else. So in my mind, I was like, okay, you get rich through real estate. I have to figure this out. And so even though we were young and newly married, I was like, well, maybe we can buy a rental house. and I didn't know anything. So we bought our first rental house after we bought our first house. And this was in Atlanta, Georgia. And I didn't know. What's that?
What year was this?
This was, my daughter was just born. Yeah. So 1999.
Okay.
So, and it was a big fat fail. I'm just going to tell you right now, there is no good story here other than I wish I still had that property. I think we paid like, I don't know, 40 or 50,000 for it. And it's probably worth 300,000, you know, but I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know you had to run the math. I didn't know that you had to make sure rents were enough. And I didn't even know that I didn't have to manage it. I mean, there were so many things wrong. I just thought buying real estate was enough. And surprise, it wasn't. So that was a big fat fail. We ended up, basically giving up that property. I don't even think I wanted to remember at the time. I'm sure it was a little bit of a loss. Anyways, and so, but I always still knew in the back of my mind that I probably did something wrong and I just didn't know what. And so fast forward to about 2005, we had moved to another state and I was like, okay, we have our house. Maybe we should try a rental thing again. And actually, no, this was before the crash. So let me change the time frame. This was around 2008. And I was like, let's just buy another property, overpaid for it. It was a condo. Again, I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know how to run the math. I just thought that's what you do. Definitely failed with that property. And then I even attempted again a third time in 2011. Again, failed, didn't know what I was doing. And you would think that I would just like stop and be like, okay, Melissa, no more investing. But I kind of did give it up for a bit. And then I went through a big transition with our company. And then I was kind of forced to go back to corporate and we moved to another state again. And so we were kind of starting all over. And I thought, you know what? I really want to give real estate another try. I think I need to become a real estate agent. I'm going to learn everything I need to do or learn by becoming a real estate agent. And no, you don't. You don't learn anything about real estate investing. Right?
Yeah, you learn how to be an agent. That is
good
for being an agent. It's helpful to have an agent, but you don't have to be an agent to be an investor. And yeah, so many people have that misconception.
Yeah. So I went through it all. I got my license and, went and sat in an open house from, another agent that had, and I was like, this is terrible. Like, I'm just sitting here wasting hours and hours hoping somebody's going to come by. I didn't learn anything. Long story short, I ended up going, okay, I want to work with investors. So I kind of pivoted over to the commercial division and I got a break. Somebody introduced an investor to me. And I went, okay, I need to learn everything I can so I can help this investor. Like, what do I not know? And so I was seeking out mentors in the real estate investing space. And so that's when the research really began, the whole rich dad, poor dad, all of that. And then I just kept going and finding other mentors. And I did hire kind of a mentor coach and my mind was like, wait a minute, there's all these other profit centers of real estate. Like I didn't even understand all of that. And I didn't learn it in real estate classes. So that's kind of the beginning of it all.
Incredible. So you say one rental property can change someone's financial future. What's the real impact of owning just one, especially one that cash flows, right? Or one that's making money? Because, and in answering that question, it's like the right one. So I would love to hear your answer to that.
Yeah. So I think the biggest thing is now I separate that timeline where I didn't know what I was doing and I had zero education. And so when I say the power of one property, I'm talking about once I became enlightened or educated and I actually had a plan and a strategy. Once you have that, my very first property that I bought, number one, it gave me the confidence that I needed to go forward. So number one, the power in your first property is you don't know what you don't know until you do it. And hopefully you're doing it with education and a plan. And so it gave me the confidence. And I went, oh my gosh, I can do this. And that property was 2,000 miles away. So I was like, okay, I can do this. I can find the people that can help me. And I'm cash flowing. And I talked to an investor friendly lender who actually gave me correct advice. And so just that confidence it gave me was huge. But so not only that, but then obviously it gave me cash flow. And I was like, this is amazing. I need to figure out how I can repeat and scale. So that first property also, when I first bought that property, so it was a turnkey rental property. So meaning that somebody else did the renovations, the work was done, and there was a local property manager in place already. So shortly after I bought it, it was still vacant and a squatter moved in. And of course, stole, all the copper and, all the things. And so I'm just saying this because my mindset was like, okay, this is now a bump. I'm not going to get off. I'm not going to get off that roller coaster yet. This is a small blip. Let's figure it out and let's solve it. And that's my local team on the ground figured that out and solved it for me. I didn't have to fly out there. I didn't have to deal with it. And I almost am grateful that I had that happen because I went, okay, done. I survived. I can do this. And I was able to kind of move on. But that first property was also really pivotal to me because I was able to grow equity in that property very quickly. I got it for under market value, and the appreciation was way more than I thought it was ever going to be. And the cash flow was still great. And so I was able to take money out of that property in a refinance 6 months later, and then put that money to work into my next property. So had I not bought that first property, I wouldn't have known how to do that. And it was possible. So it gave me the confidence, and it actually gave me more money to invest.
I love that. And I heard something, well, there was so much there, but one thing I really love is the importance of education. I'm big into education, obviously. So I have my education and community here at Real Estate Investor Goddesses, but that difference between, knowing, because real estate can lose you money. Right? If you don't know what to do, you're going to get an education either way. You get it on the front end in a really painful way. I mean, no, front, if you pay for it, you do it, you learn from other people's mistakes. It's a much better scenario than, you'll learn either way. So the getting that education up front is less painful, I find.
Well, yeah. And I think, education is so powerful, which is, we're not taught this in school, like any investing, right? And so it's up to us to take control. And I think for me, that's the whole story of everything I've done is I just feel so empowered through that education that I've done myself.
Yeah. And it doesn't mean that things won't go wrong, right? Like your example is perfect of that. It doesn't, but you have the confidence, the education, the knowledge to figure out, okay, how do you, move around those obstacles as opposed to letting them stop you. That's great. You helped your daughters buy their first rental properties young. How did you make that happen? And what's the most important lesson you wanted them to learn?
Yeah. So, I guess I'll preface this and say that I have a problem with the education system for the college level. We'll just start there with the college level. I think the college
level, that's where your problems are.
I know. There's a lot of problems.
You're very generous at the lower levels.
It's everywhere. Okay, we have a problem. But I think college is a scam. I really do. I think it's a full-blown scam. And the reason why is because they're forced to take these general education classes. I don't remember anything I learned in my general education classes in college. I just had to do it, and I had to pay this tuition for it. And I hated it. I hated being forced to sit in a lecture hall of 300 people and just terrible, teacher who wasn't even ever there. Their student aide was actually the teacher, and being forced to study the stuff that I had zero interest in and no plans to do anything with. And I just thought college was going to be so different. You hear expectations of it. College life was fun, but not the classes. And so I always wished that I had been able to have a college experience where I could just do whatever I wanted. Like, I was like, I need to go into a career that, that like makes money, or that, that is going to do this X, Y, Z. And I would have loved to have studied something because I loved it, just because the knowledge was just so enjoyable. And because I felt the pressure, otherwise I didn't get to do that. And so my dream for my children, so I have 3 daughters and a son. And I was like, how amazing would it be if they could go to college and just go study anything, like whatever they want to be, whatever they want to do, without the pressure of, can they afford, to pay the bills with that job? And so that's kind of where I was always coming from. And so once I learned about real estate and all the amazing benefits, I was like, I want that financial freedom for my kids as young as possible. And so, and also, I also watched my husband's grandmother, when she passed away, her family didn't understand what they inherited, and they sold it all. Oh. And then they spent it all. They went on vacations and bought RVs, and, and so they didn't have that education of how important that portfolio was. And I was like, that is not happening. If I'm going to start to do this and build this portfolio, I want my kids to know what they're inheriting. I wanted them to understand what real estate is so that they can keep it and feed that generational wealth, because that generational wealth that his grandma started ended when she died. And so to me, that was just like so terrible. So that's kind of where I was like, I've got to get properties in my kids' names. And I did that. I can walk you through the process if you want to, but I did it through LLCs. So even though financially, because they were underage, I had to have the properties, I did the financing on it. It was their money, and it was in their LLCs.
I love that. So what do you think, or what's the most important lessons that you wanted them to learn and that you think you've taught them?
Good question. I wanted them to learn how money works first and foremost. And I wanted them to understand that we have the same set of rules as the wealthy in this country who get to take tax advantages with real estate, right? Like, we all have the same rules. And the wealthy just know how to use them. They know how to use other people's money to make money. They know how good debt is. Debt isn't bad if you're using it to buy something that's appreciating or that's making you money. Debt is not bad. And so the wealthy understand that. They understand that debt is a tool. They understand the tax advantages. And that's what I wanted them to understand, is that mindset of how the rich get wealthy, if that makes sense. The whole rich dad, poor dad thing, just all of that. Yeah. And we're taught that at a young age. So I'm like, if we can teach it to them younger, then it won't be such a shock to their system like it was to mine and everybody else's.
That's awesome. So many women think they need a ton of money to start investing. So what is the truth? And tell us a little bit more about how you went from 0 to 5 million.
Yeah. So, okay. So I'll jump forward to my my third property. So the first one I got into just saving up some money. So, it was a turnkey property. It was already done. It was renovated. I didn't have to do anything, but I did have to put 20% down. So, I put, I think it was like $15,000 down. So that's doable. That's very doable. I would say now today, you could buy a nice property in the Midwest for, $25,000 down. So if somebody has that amount of money, it's easy, doable. Now, if you have less than that, so the problem that I found is like, okay, great. I got property 1, and then I was able to take out a little bit of equity. That was property number 2. And then I'm like, okay, now I'm stuck. Like, how do I get the third? And so around that time, I was just kind of hearing a little bit about short-term rentals. And it was kind of like Airbnb hadn't quite blown up yet, but it was out there and there was tools to use. And so my husband and I were looking at it at that as an option of like, okay, can we make good cash flow doing that? And so through my research, I found out that you can do a second property for as little as 10% down. So instead of 20% down. So then I was like, okay, if I can buy a short-term rental and only put 10% down, that saves me a lot of money in a down payment. But now I have to find a place that has really affordable, low prices. So then I was kind of like, where can I find a property that's cheap that can,
where people want to rent? It's a short-term rental.
Yeah. And I ended up again looking out of state, and I went and I looked at like all the national parks, and I looked at all the places we like to go and mountain towns and what's around, and people like to go ski and whatever. And so I kind of did my research based on where I would want to go. And we found a really affordable condo. And so I kind of started there and just kind of started my research. And
what market did you buy your short-term rental in?
What's that?
What market was that?
Oh, Utah.
In Utah. Okay.
It was in Utah. Yep. A little ski town in the mountains in southern Utah. And they, at the time, I could get a condo for, I think we paid like $120,000 for it or something.
And you could put only 10% down.
And I only had to put 10% down. And so the first thing that I did to verify the math and it would even work is I called the local property manager. And I was like, hey, how often do you think I can rent this property? What's the occupancy, and, how much are the other owners charging? I just kind of went straight to them. I didn't really know. I don't even think AirDNA was a thing yet, and so I just kind of went straight to the property manager, and she's like, there is such high demand. These houses are booked X amount, and this is how much they're charging. And then the next thing I went and I looked at and I said, okay, what is your best house? Send me the link. And it was the ugliest thing I've ever seen. Like, like the granny bedding, and it looked like it had an inch of dust. And I was like, I can do better than that. Like, I wouldn't even stay there, and I went, gosh, if I could make mine the best and the most desirable and beautiful photos, I'm going to kill it up there. And that's what happened.
I love that. I love that. That's so great. So what happens when women take control of their financial future through real estate? What shifts in their lives? And you can start, like, what shifted in your life?
Well, I definitely have always wanted to sleep well. We'll start with that. I've always been the, like, during the day, like, everything is okay, everything is fine. But at night, it's like the house quiets and your brain just starts going, a million miles an hour. And I'm running numbers in my head and, not really having a retirement plan. Because by the way, all this was happening in my 40s. There was no retirement plan at this point. There was no, and I'm like, am I going to be working? Is my husband going to be working? Are we going to be working until we're 80? No, I don't want that. And so I was always like just running numbers in my head, like, okay, do we have enough for this? And do we have enough to put into savings? And, just constantly just stressing and worrying and anxiety. And that's what I wanted to get rid of. I wanted to be able to sleep and go to bed at night and not stress about anything financial. Mm-hmm. And so for me, the fact that I can lay my head down and just feel comfortable in not only our retirement, my husband's and mine retirement now, but also I know that I can be there to help and support my children when they need it, and hopefully teach them to continue to buy real estate. And so they can feel that piece as well.
I love that. That's so great. So for the woman who's listening, for you all who are listening live or in the recording, for you who want to start investing but feel overwhelmed, what's the first simplest step? that she should take today?
The first thing that I would say is everybody's a little bit different, because sometimes in our lives we have more time than money, and sometimes we have more money than time. So if you're somebody who's like, hey, I've got a little bit of nest egg set aside, $25,000, something in that range, and you're working full time and you're a full-time working professional, or maybe you have money in your retirement account. That's where I would start. And I would put on the training wheel, so to speak. I would work with a mentor who's doing it. Or I would go the turnkey route, which is what I first did. And I still believe, and I still buy turnkey today because it's just so easy, but you have to know who to trust in the turnkey space. There's a lot of lipstick on a pig, and there's a lot of shady people out there. So you have to definitely be with the right people in that regard, but they've already done the market research. They've already renovated the property. The property manager's already there. So there's so many good things about it. And so you can put on your training wheels and go down that path that way, or with a mentor that you can follow that's teaching you how to do your own flips, or that's, whatever it is. Like, if you don't have time and want to get involved in flips, then absolutely, then turnkey is a great place to start. I did an analysis of my own portfolios, and I ran the comparisons of all of my properties, which are, a lot of them are the turnkey and short-term rentals. And there's a lot of random stuff in there that I've gotten involved with. There's some flips in there, or not flips. There's some, I did my own burrs. But I ran like, okay, what did I pay for the property, the loan? Like, what is the loan on the property and what are the rents? And then fast forward to today, what is the loan on the property and what are the rents? And then I took that percentage and I went, okay, what is my return? Some of my returns are like 700%. Some are 500%. So the math is there. So it's not a matter of if real estate works. Real estate works. Real estate's amazing. That's more than the stock market. But it's just how you're going to do it. And if you just want the training wheels way, then absolutely. I love the turnkey thing. If you don't have a lot of money, but you have time, then the BRRRR model is amazing. But there are a lot of pieces with that, and you have to trust somebody to help you and guide you, because there's a lot of mistakes that can be made. Even after I did about 50 BRRRRs and over the last 5 years, and I've lost money on a lot of them. And I was experienced and thought I knew what I was doing, and I lost money through contractors and trusting the wrong people. So I think it all goes back to building your network of trust, building your people.
So such great advice. Okay, well, it is time now for our famed end of show Trinity, which is a brag, a gratitude, and a desire. So what is one thing you are celebrating right now? What is your brag?
My brag, actually, I'll take this one personal. I've got my son is graduating from college in June, and my youngest baby is graduating from high school in June, and we're going to be empty nesters.
What? Amazing. You had 4, right?
I have 4. So I don't know if that's a brag or a sad or a cry, because it's exciting, but yeah, I'm excited for them.
All right. Well, brag. So you're bragging that you kind of raised 4 kids, and it's not easy. And hopefully they're wonderful humans, and I'm sure they are, knowing you. And okay, so what is one thing you're grateful for?
Well, I'm going to have to wrap it around the freedom that real estate has given me to be with my family and spend time with my family. My husband and I, now that we're going to be empty nesters, we're actually going to move part-time into one of my short-term rentals because it's a resort town and it's my dream home. So we're going to kind of live part-time there. And then when it's rented out during the busy season, we're going to travel. So we're going to go to Europe for a few months, and we're going to go to Portugal, and we're going to go all over. And so I'm kind of excited about that.
That's incredible. That's also a brag. Yeah.
It is a brag, but I'm so grateful. So back to the grateful. No, I'm so grateful that real estate has afforded me that.
That's amazing. And what is one thing you desire?
Oh, I've never really gotten into apartment investing. So I think, yeah. I think, I love the single family asset and it's done well for me. And I love the appreciation and all the amazing things, but I would definitely that's on my radar. I'm looking for a good deal without something like over 6 doors, 6 to 12 doors, nothing crazy. Nothing
so like kind of like a little multi-family.
Yeah, nothing crazy. Not too wild.
Okay, cool. All right. So Melissa, thank you so much. This was awesome. Where can people find you and learn more about what you're doing? And also, I think you have a little gift for our listeners.
I do. So going back to my obsession with real estate education, and there's so much amazing information out there. I created a really cool freebie. So go to my website. It's hellomelissanash.com. Hellomelissanash.com. And right on the front page, you are going to see where you can click and join. It's called the 12 Days of Real Estate Investing. And you don't have to do anything else. You just sign up for there. And for 12 days straight, I just give you some real estate nuggets to your inbox. So every day you can wake up in the morning and you can roll over while you're in bed like I do. And I just kind of scroll through my emails, and that's like my little peace time. And you can just read real quick. They're not long. They're just a paragraph. Some of them are just encouraging. Some of them are, talking about how to run quick numbers or, confidence to talk to a lender or, just really short stuff. But I've gotten a really good response from people on that. People are really liking that. So I love to be able to share the knowledge.
Love that. That is so great. Sounds like 12 days of Christmas. You get little gifts, but in terms of so great. All right. Well, thank you again. That was awesome. And ladies, if you have ever doubted whether you can do this, take this episode as your sign. You don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to take one step. And even if you stumble, and even if it doesn't work out, keep going because you can get there. If I can do it, Melissa can do it, you can do it too. So let's get real, build wealth, and stay real. And I will see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.